Hey friends, welcome back to Dead Funny University. We're doing our study group again today. And actually, I think these videos are going to come out on the same day. So I think you probably just watched our last one on Unbreakable. This one is going to be focused on Split. We separate these videos just in case you saw one movie and you didn't see the other and you kind of wanted to know about both. But we're going to do a deep dive into Split, also known as The Horde, also known as Kevin Crumb. And so with me again, I have Chris, who knows a ton about this, and I actually saw this movie. Both of us loved it, and so we're really excited to talk about this character, and what we may see coming up in Glass. So, Chris, I know we just recorded the last video, but how you doing?
Good, good.
Good.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Split. Talk to me about what you liked about it, and talk to me about what you're excited about in relation going into Glass.
As far as Split's concerned, I think it was a very well done movie. I easily think that this is probably close, in my opinion, to one of M. Night Shyamalan's best pieces of work. Um, I'm, I can go either way with the fact that it's tied into the Unbreakable series. I mean, it's fine. I've got nothing against it, but it's not like I was like watching a movie going like, "Oh, this would be so cool if it was part of the Unbreakable series." So, like I said, I can go either way. It's not that big a deal for me. But it is pretty fucking cool that they're doing that. Man, I really enjoyed this movie. I think James McAvoy did a very great job at not only being able to capture just Kevin, but every single personality as well. I think the fact that they did the separate personality disorder aspect of it was very hard to keep track of who was who. And if anybody, which that also got brought up, if anybody was actually pretending to be someone else and us not actually knowing that at the time. Like there was the whole thing where they were talking about Dennis possibly actually playing as Barry, even though Barry was, possibly the actual person, because Barry is the one that was constantly talking to the psychiatrist. So, unless
Mm-hmm.
another one came out a little bit. But yeah, Barry was the main one that she would always talk to, and that was the one that was into fashion. And there was a lot of times where they were like, maybe Dennis is actually pretending to be Barry, so that way he knows the information that's actually being said, and he can give that back to the Beast, and the Beast can do whatever it needs to be done.
So, real fast, Chris, can we jump into the plot of Split just a little bit to give anybody who maybe didn't see it but plans to go see Glass kind of an understanding of what's coming up, who the characters are, and what may be significant?
So, Split takes place. It's an origin story of, I guess you can call him a villain. Kind of more of like an anti-villain slash hero at the same time. Um, he is a person who was physically and mentally terrorized by his mother, which caused him to have a fractioned psyche and develop separate personalities, a total of 24, in order to help him cope and live throughout life. A lot of these have their own taste, as far as stuff they like to do, hobbies, everything else. What's really interesting, which I thought M. Night Shyamalan did a really good job of, and McAvoy did a great job portraying, is a lot of these actually have differences as far as stature and stuff, or just different illness. So, like for instance, there's two of them that specifically cannot see unless they're wearing glasses, but none of the other 22 personalities need glasses. One of them is a diabetic. None of the other ones are diabetic. So just doing stuff like that was very interesting. Obviously, the main one being the Beast, which is the scariest one out of all of them, obviously, which is his overall primal version of him, where he has like insane fucking strength and senses and everything else, just basically primal. Um, I mean, his muscles get real huge, his veins start popping out, and I mean, he just looks like an animal basically, just without fur, obviously. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. But basically, as far as the plot of the movie was, this was just kind of showing us how we have this individual who has certain personalities who have learned how to, and I guess to explain that, who have learned how to take the light. What take the light means in this movie is take control of Kevin being the main person. So Kevin is the main person, but all these other personalities have their own names, which you'll hear us refer to them as we go. We'll try to keep using the phrase "take the light," so you know when we're talking about someone switching. But basically, it was a chance for us to see how this individual is dealing with all these other personalities taking the light and being able to control his body and do things that maybe he wouldn't necessarily want to do or be a part of. And honestly, throughout the entire movie, it seems like the person who is least in control is Kevin. It seems like there's a lot of these personalities that actually have way more control and are way more easier to take in the light and doing what they want to do, versus Kevin actually being able to do anything. He's just kind of along for the ride, whether he wants to be there or
Mhm.
not, which is very, very interesting. One of the main people that we start out with is Dennis, which it's known that he is a bit of a possible murderer. Um, he is a um, probably a rapist, sex offender, possibly a pedophile, like all kinds of stuff, like just basically as low as you could possibly be. And we start out with him abducting three cheerleaders or three little girls. Not little girls. Like, I'd say they're probably like 16, 15.
I think they're like 13 or something like that.
Anywhere
They're
between
not.
13 to 16. We'll go with that one.
Yeah.
We'll meet in the middle. So somewhere around that age. And abducts them, takes them back, and chains them up. And then it's like they're terrified for their life, trying to figure out what they're going to do. And they have no idea what they're in for because they think they're just going to be dealing with this guy that's kidnapped them, to where now they have all these different personalities that they are interacting with. Which is a cool theory. While I was doing some research, is that the one chick who maintains her shit throughout the entire video, at the very end of the movie, the cops tell her, "Your uncle's here to pick you up." And she has
Hmm.
this look on her face of, "I honestly don't know what's worse, being with this guy or being with my uncle." So obviously she's been experiencing some crazy shit her entire life, which is why she was able to just like, all right, we need to focus the fuck up. This is what needs to happen in order for us to survive, type deal. And while she was able to figure out the personalities and mix with them and do what they need to do in order for her to get to where she needed to go. So that was very fucking interesting. And as we've seen in the trailer for Glass, they bring her back to talk to him. And I think the reason why is because they're trying to get specific personalities that might not be coming out. And they're
Hmm.
probably trying to get, like, my guess would be Hedwig. And once again, taking the light. Hedwig, which was the 9-year-old personality, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
he
he was a
was,
9-year-old boy, right?
yep, 9-year-old boy. And that was the one that she was mainly able to talk to and get the most information out of. That's the one that's scared of the beast. And they actually said in the analysis that he is actually probably the strongest personality, because it seems
Hmm.
like he can actually take the light pretty much whenever the fuck he wants to. But he doesn't steal
Yes.
it from Patricia, which was the old lady, or
Hmm.
the beast, or Dennis, because he's just scared of them.
He's afraid of the beast, but he is the only one that can take the light anytime that he wants to.
Right.
And he can actually take it away from the beast. And I think they reference to that. But he is afraid of them, and so he won't. And they did in the movie go into the fact that Claire, I believe Claire was the name of that main girl,
Possibly.
that made it all the way through and survived this experience with the beast. But they did go into the fact that Claire actually, her father was potentially murdered, at the very least died, but potentially murdered by her uncle, and her uncle has been sexually abusing her since she was a
Yep.
very, very small child.
Yep.
And so her dad didn't know that, and then when he died, she was left in the care of her uncle. And so the beast, at the very end of the movie, the beast is planning on killing Claire, realizes that she's lived a horrible life,
Mm-hmm.
and then says the words to her, "You, I believe it's, you are pure."
You aren't pure. He wants to
You
destroy everything that's pure. He wants to kill
he
everything that's
wants
pure.
No, he views, I don't think that's quite right. I think it's actually that he considers purity to be people that have seen trials and wants to, is am I incorrect here?
I think so. I almost feel like it was specifically the other way around. He wanted to kill everything that he thought was pure because the world needed to know what it's actually supposed to be and what actually goes on. I could be wrong too, though. I'm actually trying to figure
He
out exactly what it was his motive was.
having previously declared his plans to rid the world of the impure and untouched,
Okay,
aka those who
okay,
have never suffered, she
gotcha,
was determined to be pure because he saw the marks on her body of what she's been through,
gotcha.
and then determined that she was pure, so he spares her. So she is actually the safest person to have approach the beast. Also, the other personalities would know her, so I understand why they're bringing her back for this movie, because the beast has no reason to hurt her. She has gone through, she has suffered. He knows that she is similar to him from his perspective. And so I understand why they're bringing her back. I just think it's going to be very interesting because that leads her in a place where she could very easily be manipulated by either Glass or David Dunn.
Yeah, true. It's very true.
So please continue. I know I interrupted to kind of have a
No, you're
conversation about
good.
her because she's an interesting character too. Where else did you where else did you want to go with your analysis of the movie of the characters?
So basically, yeah, I guess I was just kind of given the origin of that. So yeah, I mean, it's just basically a trial of these kids having to figure out how to deal with this guy that's got these multiple personalities, and just seeing how he personally deals with them in general. And I just thought it was very well done, especially with the fact where they even went as far as to bring like him having his therapy sessions and um, how he's able to kind of like evade those and just like string her along and stuff like that. It was very well done. So I'm excited to see
It
that
was an
transition for sure.
it was an interesting conversation specifically around split personalities because the concept that M. Night Shyamalan worked with was that having a split personality the personality can affect the body differently, which is how each one of these can be different. And there's actually to the best of my knowledge, and I could be wrong on this, there is a lot of conversation around the effect of split personalities on people that have them in the real world and how that all works. And I think there was a little bit of hands thrown in the air when Split came out about people being afraid that of people with split personality disorder. Bleh, sorry, people with this psychological issue of people being afraid of them and thinking that they may be able to do something when this is a story that doesn't necessarily reflect reality. Does
No,
that kind of gel with what you understand as well?
right, for sure, 100%. I mean, he said from the get go that this is supposed to be kind of like his version of a comic book. So
Hmm.
if you know somebody that has split personalities, they're not gonna turn into a fucking crazy beast and start climbing on the ceiling and chase after you shirtless. So
It's very unlikely that's going to
I
happen.
think it's pretty safe, honestly. So, but yeah, it was definitely interesting to kind of see just like a take on it and just to not only see that but also see the struggle of different people having to deal with it and understand it and stuff like that, and also seeing the differences between the people who understood it and the people who clearly didn't. They ended up dying because they didn't understand and knew how to go along with what was going on and stuff like that, which is pretty interesting. So it says
Yeah,
very well
knowing
done
when to
movie.
fight. Yeah, knowing when to fight, knowing when to give in, knowing when to allow things and when not to.
Yep.
And that main girl character, she definitely navigated that very well. But James McAvoy, man, he is so talented to bring all these different personalities to life in a very real way. It doesn't look like it's one guy who's just doing the same thing again and again with a different wig on. Like it they feel like different people on the screen.
Right. Right. And the only thing he changed was clothing, which is pretty cool too. So
So he has 24 different personalities. We got to see a few of them in the first movie. We talked
correct.
about Hedwig already, who's the 9-year-old boy. Patricia was an older woman.
Hmm.
And then we had, I think, Dennis. And did we have any others?
Dennis was the one that abducted the children. We had
That's right. Yep.
we had Barry, who was the one that would talk to the therapist. That was the main one that was always talking to the therapist. He was the one that was like really into fashion.
Hmm.
Obviously Kevin is the main. We have the Beast, by far the dangerous out of all of them. Um, Jade was the one that was in the video log that apparently was diabetic, which I thought was funny. Um, and then Orwell, which was the one that was also in the video, and he seems to be extremely intelligent. So, and he was one of the ones that could not see without glasses. The other ones were
Okay.
all people off of the computer, which was Henrich, Norma, Goddard, Bernice, Polly, Luke, Raquel, Felicia. Actually, that's wrong. It's not Felicia. It's Felita because I was literally just watching a video on this. Ansel, Jelen, Kat, BT, Samuel, Mary Reynolds, which I know for a fact we get her in class. Um, because that was like the chick comes in to talk to him, and it's like Mary Reynolds, Ian, and then Mr. Pritchard.
Okay. Now we've been told we're going to get more of these personalities on screen
21
in Glass.
is what the number was.
21.
21
Oh
of the
man.
24 personalities will be in Glass, which is pretty cool.
Now, if you haven't watched our little clip on Unbreakable, I definitely recommend you go back and watch that. It's not terribly long, but what we're about to talk about is actually going to relate back to Unbreakable and what we think some of what is in Unbreakable and some of Mr. Glass's and Unbreakable's powers if they have them, how they may relate. So I definitely go back and check that out if you haven't yet. But if you already watched it, are there any personalities that we have any information about that may be used by either Glass or Unbreakable to try to manipulate or control Kevin?
So a lot of these I feel like could go both ways. Um,
Really?
I think Hedwig could be persuaded either way, solely for the fact that he is an innocent.
Hmm.
Uh, I think the main one that would be hard to persuade anyway would be Kevin himself. Um,
Hmm.
as far as not wanting to deal with either one of this, not knowing either one of the people. Barry, I think, could easily be on um, Dunn's side. Dennis would easily be Glass. Patricia could go either way.
Yeah, she
Uh,
seemed a little wicked.
she seems a little wicked, but she's also the person that like would take, well, like understood when things need to be done and how to do them. But she is
Hmm.
very dangerous herself, so she could go either way. The Beast obviously would be Glass for sure.
Yeah.
Jade, I would think would be Dunn, and like I said, Orwell, I could see being both because of how intelligent he is. So either he could relate to Glass with the intelligence aspect, or he could be smart enough to know that obviously Glass is not the smart choice and that he's actually evil. So
Now, you mentioned this off camera, but in Unbreakable, we talked about the fact that David Dunn, Unbreakable, is has kind of a green color to him, and
right.
he's often put with green because that's the hero color. We've associated Glass with the villain color, which is purple.
Mm-hmm.
And does Kevin, does this particular character, he doesn't really have a name because he has so many. Does he have a color?
Yeah, his color is like a yellowish orange, supposed to be kind of like a primal-ish type deal. But yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I guess the best way to to call him, like what he's mainly referred to as, just the Horde. That's what they keep calling him because he's a horde of people
Okay.
inside one person. So they specifically keep calling him the Horde.
Okay.
Even him himself refers to himself as the Horde. I'm like, so who are we talking to today? And I'm like, well, the Horde is here. And it's like, okay, well, who out of the Horde is actually talking to us? So
So, do we think that this story is going to see the further fracturing of an already very broken character in the Horde, or do we think that this story may actually be kind of Kevin bringing these personalities back together and becoming Kevin again, separate from all of these people?
I don't think I don't know. It's kind of hard because I mean we got to think about the person who's directing it. I mean with him it's kind of hard to
Hmm.
really understand where it's gonna go. I could easily see Unbreakable having to kill Kevin, like just the only way to stop the beast. Like it gets pushed too far and like the only person that has the light anymore is just the beast, and like he has to go to the point where he kills him.
Hmm.
Um, in order to get to Glass and stop Glass, because I mean they're out for blood. Those two are definitely out for blood.
Yep.
So I definitely think it could be one of those classic tales of what happens when you push a hero too far.
Ooh, okay. Now, to date, did Dunn ever kill anyone?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Off the top of
So
my
if
head,
he
I don't
didn't,
think so.
then we run the risk of Kevin, of the horde, of this person who's so broken, possibly being the first person that Dunn would kill.
Yeah, possibly.
Interesting. And we do believe that Dennis has killed people as one of the members of this horde. We believe he's killed people.
Right,
And so we kind of have somebody who's kind of leaning a little bit more on the dark side here that may end up dying
right.
or killing, depending on how the movie goes.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever killed anybody as far as David Dunn's concerned. I mean, his occupation's always been like a security guard. He's always kind of just been out to kind of like help people type deal. So, um,
Okay. Other than, I believe it was Casey. Casey, not Claire. I'm sorry.
oh, it was
Other
Casey.
than,
Gotcha.
yeah, Casey. I was wrong. I was wrong. I'm sure there's somebody who'll tell me in the comments that I just said it way too many times, and
Who
I'm
the
sorry. I
fuck
was
is
wrong.
Claire?
It's Casey. I'm sorry. Um, Other than Casey, do we know of anybody else from the Horde's life in the Horde's movie that's going to come back, possibly in Glass?
Well, the other two girls died.
Yep.
and so did the therapist. So I find it hard to believe that we'll have anybody significant. I don't know what the entire like story with his mom is if she's still alive, but my guess is
Hmm.
gonna be that no, they're not gonna have anybody come back into his life besides Casey. I think she's pretty much the easy staple there. So I don't think they're gonna do anything else with anybody else. I'm just surprised that she even wants to do it. If I was in her shoes, I'd be like, fuck that.
Yeah.
Why haven't you killed this guy yet? That would be my fucking thing on that one. Like, I put 2 gunshots into him and he's still walking. Like, he needs to be dealt with. So
Yeah.
that would be my mine on that one. It's like you
Yeah.
didn't see this guy crawling on the fucking ceiling, all right? Like, we need to end this one. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't think there's going to be anything as far as that goes. I think like basically the main people who we're going to get as far as conversations with are going to be his other personalities, and I think we're going to get those a lot like really rapid. And that comes to
Hmm.
something that we were talking about in the last episode that we didn't touch on too much that I kind of want to talk about because it's easily going to be my favorite part of the movie is the entire flash setup they have to symbolize the light being passed to someone else and to constantly make him switch through his personalities in his jail cell. I think that's very interesting. So I'm really excited to see that, and that's where we're obviously going to see some of these because they say we're going to see 21 personalities. We're probably going to only see like the main ones again, and then like the other ones are going to be
Hmm.
these like quick flashes.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see. We'll see. I could be completely wrong. I don't know.
But that is furthering that little trope that M. Night Shyamalan is creating with the mind and the body being so connected that the mind can change and make physical changes on the body, but then you can also affect the body with these lights and make changes back into the mind. So it's kind of this cool little seesaw that he's got going, depending on how he needs it to work for the story, as well as how the character needs to continue to develop.
Right. Right. It's going to be interesting
I'm really
for sure.
excited.
I'm really excited. Yes, I'm really excited. Actually, I kind of want to watch Split again, just to watch that one again. I really like Split. That one was good.
Yeah, that might happen for me this weekend as well because I it was amazing to see, and especially in theaters. It was a lot.
Well, yeah, and just like they sold it so well too. Like me and a couple friends were like, "Oh, dude, this is gonna be a baller ass like it's a horror movie." Da 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 da. And we're all going into it, and at the end, it's like, "Oh, this is part of the Unbreakable series." I was like, "No fucking way, dude! You gotta be fucking kidding me! You're gonna hit me with this 16 years later? Like, get the fuck out of here!" Jesus. Oh well.
All right. Well, is there anything else that you think is important about the Horde or any of the characters in Split that we should be bringing into our knowledge as we go into Glass?
I don't think so. I think that's pretty much it. Like I said, besides possibly the mom, I don't know if she actually died or not, if he actually killed her or anything like that. That could be the only other thing I could think about. But I do want to say, because I know we have some people who are here that are just dead funny, and I know we have some people here who came from Dark Star as well. I've said on multiple videos, multiple videos, probably on both channels, who knows at this point, that I am not a fan of realistic comic book movies. I know. I said this.
Really?
I'm not at all. I'm not. I hated the whole Batman trilogy. It was terrible. I don't like. It was terrible. The entire thing was terrible. Like Bane, that was the disgrace. Absolutely disgrace. And the reason why is because I read comics. I grew up with these superheroes. I want to see my Avengers where they're taking on these gigantic aliens and shit, like stuff that is well without or well outside the realms of their normal day-to-day routines versus fighting some fucking guy who got rejected from the football team that's strong enough to pick somebody up and break them on their back. Like I don't want to watch that. I don't. But I want to say where my difference is. I'm not a gigantic Unbreakable fan. I'm really not. It's a good movie. I will go as far as to say it is easily the most underrated movie of 2000. Easily the most underrated movie. When it came out, it got a lot of hate because everybody just said, "Well, it wasn't as good as The Sixth Sense." You can't put those together just because they're from the same director. They're two completely different movies. Two
Yeah, there's two
completely
totally different concepts there.
yeah, it was even like on the score of Rotten Tomatoes, which I think gave it like a 68%. That was the ending of the actual published quote, which was really good movie. M Night Shyamalan, did it again, but it wasn't as good as The Sixth Sense. It's like, come on, dude. Like you're a fucking actual critic. Like let's be real. You should know better than to compare two movies that don't fucking go together. Now, if it
Hmm.
was like fucking Unbreakable 1 versus Unbreakable 2, sure, absolutely. Fucking say all you want to. Avengers Age of Ultron was shit. It was terrible. And Ultron's my favorite fucking villain, but it was terrible. I can compare that. Why? Because they make sense. These two movies definitely do not. But back to my main thing. This is different, and the reason why is because this is not a comic book that I've read growing up. This is not a comic book at all, besides the fact that the comic book series have been made after it. This is a world that started and stayed in a realistic environment.
Mm-hmm.
Batman and Joker, yes, realistic people, no superpowers. Batman and Bane, Bane from the movie, realistic, no superpowers. Bane from the comics is like 6 stories tall, and his arms are as big as a school bus, and can pick Batman up with 2 fingers. There's clearly a difference between the two characters, which is why I was upset. So once again,
Yeah, I'd be mad too.
differences, big differences. So not saying that the actors it was their fault because it obviously wasn't, but
Mm-hmm.
the movie was terrible, as well as the rest of the trilogy. I mean, the Joker, the one with the Joker was fine. Heath Ledger did a great job. He did a great job, but everything else was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. I hate that fucking series. It's god awful. But anyway, so just to clarify that for the viewers, I don't want to get hit up in the comments being like, but you said you fucking hated realistic fucking superhero movies, and now you're like Unbreakable's the greatest thing ever. Never said Unbreakable was the greatest thing ever. First off, just want to start there, and two, like I said, it's different. It's completely different with this. If you don't see that, I'm sorry, I can't explain that anymore. It's different. Um, First off, and then second off, if you haven't seen these movies, definitely go watch them. They're good movies for sure. Split is amazing in my opinion. I'm really hyped for Glass. I think it's going to be a really, really good movie. I hope it ends with Glass. Like I told you earlier, I don't want this to be something that gets ruined because the rise of superhero movies. I don't want this to. I don't want Shyamalan to be like, I have my chance at my own Avengers. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry, dude. These characters do not have the strength to carry a franchise. They don't. I'm sorry. It took you 16
No.
it took 16 years to give us another movie, man. Like they don't have the strength to do it. I'm sorry. They don't. This is your chance to get nitty and gritty with it and get out. I mean, as we've seen the current trend of superhero, if it's not funny and makes you laugh at least like 35% of the movie, everybody hates it. So this is your chance to be like gritty with it and then stop it. So, but yeah, it's about all I had to touch on that one for sure.
No, absolutely. That makes sense. Well, everybody, that's going to wrap up our discussion of Split. If you haven't seen the movie, please go check it out. That's the same with Unbreakable. Glass, excuse me, yeah, Split and Glass. Yep. Glass is coming out on January 18th, so definitely go check that out. We're probably going to do a review show here on Dead Funny at some point to discuss that movie and kind of think about how what we may have seen in these videos and kind of what we thought might happen, what we actually saw in the movie. So go see it and then come and join us here again on Dead Funny. In the meantime, have a great week, everybody, and subscribe to us, turn on those notifications so that way you know when to come to class for Dead Funny University, and have a great day. Bye, guys. Bye, friends.